Hello, my dearest film enthusiasts. Welcome back to another delightful installment of Tim and Tom's Film Nights. Today, we have the absolute pleasure of dissecting the 2010 American teen romantic comedy, Easy A. Now, Thomas, you've been rather chirpy about this one lately, haven't you?
Timothy, old chap. You know me, I can't resist a good old-fashioned rom-com. Especially when it stars the radiant Miss Stone. Easy A is a gem of a film that manages to straddle the line between comedy and drama perfectly, much like our own friendly banter here tonight.
Well, I must say, Thomas, dearest, your taste in cinema has left me quite perplexed at times. Easy is an abominable mess of a film that should never have been inflicted upon unsuspecting audiences. It's akin to watching paint dry, only less engaging.
Oh, now, Timothy dear, don't be such a fusty old stick in the mud. Easy A is a modern take on a timeless classic, and, it does Nathaniel Hawthorne proud. It's witty, charming, and even has a few heartwarming moments sprinkled throughout.
I think, you've drunk too much of that tea, Thomas, dearest. Easy, is nothing more than a feeble attempt to cash in on the popularity of teen films like Mean Girls and Heather. But it falls flat on its face. The writing is subpar at best, the acting even worse, and the supposed twist ending is as predictable as you wearing that ghastly Hawaiian shirt in our last episode.
But Timothy dearest, that's part of the charm of Easy A. It knows exactly what it is, and embraces its cheesiness wholeheartedly. Besides, who doesn't love a good old-fashioned witch hunt pun? And as for my attire, at least I have the decency to try and inject some much-needed color into our otherwise dreary conversations.
Well, Tom, dearest, I fear we're going round in circles. Perhaps we should move on to discussing the plot of this abomination, shall we?
Oh, Timothy dearest, I think we've touched upon the plot already, haven't we? Easy A is a delightful tale of Upham, social misconceptions, and the power of standing up for oneself. It follows the story of high school outcast turned unlikely social pariah, Miss Stone's character, Olive Oh So Charming O'Connor. Olive is an introverted bookworm who finds herself the unwitting center of attention when she accidentally tells a white lie about her weekend activities. In order to escape the relentless bullying, she decides to embrace her newfound status as a slut and uses her keen wit and knack for historical knowledge to exaggerate her fictional exploits. However, things spiral out of control when she realizes that her lies have actual consequences. She must navigate the treacherous waters of high school politics, deal with her own burgeoning feelings for the handsome and charismatic hunk played by the dashing Mr. Byrd, and ultimately learn valuable life lessons along the way. Now, Timothy dearest, I know you've been rather vociferous in your dislike of this film, but can you at least give it credit where credit is due? The performances are top-notch, particularly from Miss Stone, who truly nails her role as the socially awkward geek turned confident vixen, and the nods to classic literature, while perhaps a tad forced at times, add a layer of depth to the otherwise light-hearted rom-com formula. So, Timothy dearest, care to reconsider your position? Are you ready to admit that Easy A is in fact anything but easy on the eyes and mind alike?
I must say, Thomas, dearest, you did manage to reel me in with your eloquent defense of Easy. However, my initial opinion stands firmly intact. While Miss Stone's performance is indeed commendable, it simply isn't enough to salvage this cinematic train wreck. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go freshen up my tea leaves and reevaluate our future podcast schedule, as I fear we may have reached a impasse in our cinematic tastes. Good evening, my dearest Thomas.
Oh, Tim dearest, don't be so hasty before you go off to find solace in the comforting embrace of your baked goods and historical novels. let us discuss some interesting trivia about our cinematic train wreck, Easy. Firstly, did you know that Emma Stone, who plays Olive, actually had a real-life crush on her co-star, the dashing Mr. Byrd? The on-screen chemistry between them is so convincing because it's, well, very much real. Secondly, the iconic witch hunt scene where Olive stands defiantly in front of her accuser was actually inspired by a famous painting called The Execution of Lady Jane Grey by Guido Reni. The director, Will Gluck, wanted to modernize the painting's powerful imagery while paying homage to its historical roots. And lastly, the movie was filmed entirely in suburban Atlanta, Georgia, which served as a perfect stand-in for the quintessential American high school setting. So, Timothy dearest, perhaps you might reconsider your initial assessment of Easy after learning about these fascinating tidbits?
Well, Tom dearest, I must admit, those tidbits are rather intriguing, especially the fact about Miss Stone and Mr. Byrd's real-life romance, adding an extra layer of authenticity to their on-screen chemistry. And while I still stand by my initial assessment of Easy A, it does showcase some impressive special effects and filming techniques that deserve a moment's consideration. For instance, the seamless integration of vintage-inspired visual elements with modern-day settings is quite remarkable. The use of sepia tones, old-fashioned camera movements, and props transport you back in time to the 19th century. And yet there are subtle hints of contemporary life peeking through, like smartphones and modern clothing styles, creating a charming contrast between past and present. The film also employs clever digital effects to enhance certain scenes without overshadowing the storytelling. For instance, in the famous witch hunt scene mentioned earlier, the computer-generated crowd is so realistic that you'd swear they were actual extras. But the most impressive effect perhaps lies in the transformation of Olive's appearance throughout the movie. Makeup artist Judith M. Chisholm deserves a standing ovation for seamlessly aging Miss Stone by subtly adding wrinkles, freckles, and even a slight weight gain over the course of the film, making her character's journey feel all the more realistic. So while Easy may not be my cup of tea, it's hard to deny the skill and dedication that went into its production, both behind and in front of the camera. And who knows, perhaps after a few more viewings, I might just learn to appreciate its quirky charms a little bit more.
Now, Thomas dearest,
it's time for your favorite part of our podcast, the actor-a-thon segment. Let's talk about the talented cast members of Easy and their respective roles in this cinematic masterpiece. Shall we?
Well, Timothy dearest, I'm glad you've finally come around to appreciating the stellar performances delivered by the talented cast of Easy A. Let's start with our titular character, Olive, oh so charming O'Connor, played by the enigmatic Emma Stone. Olive is a socially awkward and introverted teenager who finds herself thrust into the spotlight after a little white lie spirals out of control. Stone delivers a captivating performance that perfectly balances Olive's awkwardness with her growing confidence and wit. She effortlessly embodies Olive's journey from a wallflower to a self-proclaimed slut with equal parts vulnerability and fierceness, making us root for her throughout the film. Next up is our dashing heartthrob, Peter, the perfect specimen of teenage masculinity, Sue Jr., played by the handsome Penn Badgley. Peter is the quintessential high school jock who, despite his seemingly shallow exterior, harbors deep insecurities and a hidden intellect. Badgley brings a layered complexity to this otherwise one-dimensional character, making us sympathize with his plight as he navigates the treacherous waters of adolescence. His chemistry with Stone is appreciable, adding an extra layer of authenticity to their on-screen romance. We also have our resident mean girl, the vicious and vengeful Marianne, the evil bitch queen thingy-mabob, played by the delightfully spiteful Amanda Bynes. Marianne is a walking example of teenage girl drama at its finest. Beautiful, popular, and absolutely ruthless. Bynes channels her inner high school queen bee with perfection, making us love to hate her character's antics. Her prank turned prank gone wrong sets the wheels of Olive's downfall in motion, adding a delicious layer of revenge and payback to the film's narrative. Last but certainly not least, we have Olive's loving father, Mr. O'Connor, portrayed by the ever-eager to please Dan Byrd. Mr. O'Connor is a single dad who, despite his best efforts, often fumbles through life, trying to navigate his own teenage years all over again. Byrd brings an endearing vulnerability to this character, making us root for him as he struggles to connect with his daughter during her most turbulent years. His bumbling attempts at parenting and his eventual acceptance of Olive's newfound popularity are heartwarming moments that tug at the viewer's heartstrings. In conclusion, Easy boasts a talented cast that seamlessly brings to life the complex web of teenage angst, romance, and self-discovery that makes this film an instant classic. Each performance is nuanced and layered, adding depth and authenticity to their respective characters' journeys. So, Timothy dearest, are you ready to give Easy a second chance?
Well, Thomas dearest, while I still maintain my reservations about Easy's overall quality as a film, it does hold some cultural significance. Firstly, its release coincided with the revival of 80s and 90s nostalgia, which continues to this day. The film pays homage to iconic teen movies like The Breakfast Club and Heathers, while also poking fun at them. It's a love letter to the genre that also acknowledges its cliches and tropes. Secondly, Easy tackles important topics such as bullying, rumor-mongering, and the damaging effects of mob mentality on innocent individuals. While it may not delve into these issues in a particularly deep manner, it does raise awareness about the consequences of unchecked gossip and how quickly rumors can spiral out of control. Thirdly, the film has been praised for its portrayal of feminism and empowerment through Olive's character arc. Despite being initially ostracized and ridiculed for her moral stand, she ultimately embraces her newfound popularity and uses it to challenge the misogynistic attitudes prevalent in their high school. She becomes a symbol of defiance against societal expectations and the patriarchal system that seeks to silence her voice. In conclusion, while Easy may not be my cup of tea, one cannot deny its cultural impact on teenage movies and the discussions it has sparked about gender roles, bullying, and social hierarchy in high schools. It's a film that, despite its flaws, continues to resonate with audiences worldwide, provoking thoughtful conversations and debates about the complexities of adolescence. So, Thomas dearest, even if we disagree on the film's artistic merits, we can both appreciate its influence on pop culture and its willingness to challenge traditional gender norms. Shall we move on to our next topic? Perhaps a classic British comedy.
Well said, Timothy dearest. I think we've delved deep enough into the intricacies of Easy A for one night. Shall we move on to our next topic? Perhaps something light-hearted and less controversial? How about a classic British comedy?
Oh, Thomas dearest, that sounds absolutely marvelous. I'm quite fond of a good old-fashioned British farce, something along the lines of Monty Python or Fawlty Towers. What do you have in mind?
Ah, Timothy dearest, your taste in comedy is impeccable. I was thinking we could watch one of my absolute favorites. Oh, The Office. No, not that modern-day American dreck with Steve Carell and the like, but the original British version starring the legendary Ricky Gervais and his talented cohorts.
Oh, I see. Yes, I've heard good things about this series. A mockumentary-style sitcom set in a fictional paper company. Sounds rather unique, doesn't it?
Indeed, Tim dearest, indeed. It's a hilarious satire on the mundane corporate world we all have to endure at some point in our lives. But don't let that deter you from giving it a chance. The characters are so well developed and the performances are simply outstanding, you won't regret it. I promise you that.
Well, Thomas, dearest, your word is as good as gold, so I shall give it a go. Perhaps we can discuss our thoughts on the Office Tomorrow's podcast.
Absolutely, Tim, dearest. And don't forget to leave us a comment, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends and, fellow film enthusiasts. Until next time, good night, everyone.